It started here in Minnesota when Chipotle fired 450 workers after an immigration audit. Now the Mexican fast food restaurant is facing a federal investigation into whether the company has turned a blind eye when hiring illegal immigrants. Vincent Martin is an immigration attorney and he joins us tonight. What's your take on the situation with Chipotle? They made the hires, yes, but then in the end they fired the workers. So do you think the feds are using them as an example to send a message to other restaurants?
Well, I think they are to a certain extent. The immigration law with regard to hiring of workers lays out certain factors that the Immigration Service through the Immigration and Customs Enforcement can use to determine who they're going to audit and who they're going to go after. That can range anything from a lead from someone calling it in, or it can be if the Immigration Service believes that there are a lot of non-English speaking people at that job, or even if the employer is in an industry with a history of illegal, unauthorized employment. So where those factors in any other circumstance would be considered profiling or even discriminatory, in this context it is allowed.
Right. So it is the employer's responsibility to find out who they're hiring.
It is. They all have to comply with what's called an I-9 eligibility verification. That lists for the employer what documents they need to look at to determine whether the person they're hiring or they have hired is eligible to work in the United States. But it's not as easy as it sounds. There are many different combinations of documents that a worker can present to the employer who is not an immigration official, they are not an attorney, and they have to figure out whether what they're looking at is a legitimate document or not, or whether it's even the right document that they can accept.
What's the consequence then for an employer who knowingly hires someone who is undocumented?
It can be both civil and criminal. On the civil side, that's going to be fines, and for a large employer like Chipotle, it's per violation. So when you are being charged with violating with up to 1,200 employees or more, it can range in the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. On the criminal side, that's going to be more egregious, and that's when they are going to have to prove that the employer, maybe even all the way up to the executive level, knowingly looked the other way, knowingly accepted false documents, and like I said, that's going to be jail time, and that can go all the way up to the executive level.
Let's focus on the employees for just a moment here, because obviously there's a lot of fraud as well, so an employer has to be careful. But if you've got someone who's applying for a job who's lying and providing you with what looks like correct documentation, aren't they also responsible?
Well, they are, but that's not what these audits are going after right now, Marnie. They are looking at the employers, and how it works is they contact the employer, typically Immigration and Customs Enforcement contacts the employer, tells them there are these suspicions, we have these issues with these documents that you've been accepting or through the Social Security no-match system, and then they give the employer the opportunity to cooperate with them. And usually the employer then goes to the employee and says, we have these problems, and you either need to present authorized documents or you're going to have to get fired. And they usually just get fired or they never come back. So it's not helping to curb the unauthorized population in the country. These people, after these audits, are not having to leave the country. They're simply either going underground to work for cash, they're shifting to another employer. So these audits are not addressing the overall issue of immigration in the United States.
Certainly a troubling issue that isn't going away right now. But Vincent Martin, we thank you for your time tonight and also your insight on this one.
Thank you, Marty.